Hey, Andre. We gotta go, dude.
What?
We gotta go.
Go where?
There's this online contest we have to enter. There are prizes, we get to go to Hawaii, stay on the beach, and everything.
Eric, what are you talking about? And how the hell did you get in here anyway?
Oh, I have a key.
You have a what?
Listen, it's called the Make Believe contest, and a winner and a friend get 2 free first-class trip tickets to Hawaii.
I don't know, man. That sounds a little sketchy to me.
Believe me, my friend told me about it. It's totally legit.
I mean, it would be nice to get out of the cold for a while.
Think of the parties, the volcanoes, and the girls.
We can't do it.
Why not?
Film a 60-second travel video promoting your current city in a fun way.
We're fun, we live in a city.
You must shoot and deliver the video in ProRes. Oh yeah, and the deadline is tomorrow.
What does that mean?
It means the day after today.
Oh. What's ProRes?
It's a codec developed by Apple that has very little compression and is usually found on cinema cameras. I would have to rent gear.
So
the deadline is the day after today.
Tomorrow.
We don't have time.
What'd you get?
I upgraded to the new iPhone 13 Pro Max. With ProRes.
Oh, snap!
Are you the kind of filmmaker who loves to overcomplicate your workflow in order to work with a killer Kodak and get a sprinkle of free publicity? Then you have clicked on the right thumbnail. Hello, I'm Andre Correa, and this is Andre Correa Now, a show about the art of filmmaking, the craft behind it, and the technologies that make it all possible. Friends, we all know that I'm nothing if not just another cinema snob that wouldn't be caught dead filming with anything that costs less than the gross domestic product of Malaysia. But life, oh life. He has a way of humbling even the most handsome amongst us. That's why I decided to embark on a not at all self-indulging spiritual quest to transform my iPhone 13 Pro Max into a cinema camera. In the immortal words of the Apple genius who sold me my phone, the best camera is the one you have to pay off in 36 monthly installments, but it becomes obsolete after 1 year. Although rigging up an iPhone is nothing new, the iPhone 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max were the first to offer a 10-bit 422 ProRes codec. And that is a big deal. Most hybrid cameras and phones of the past feature a color depth of 8 bits that gives us about 16.7 million colors. And although that has, and continues to, serve our filmmaking folk, the 1.07 billion colors we can now get from a 10-bit sensor is objectively better, especially when it comes to chroma keying, image fidelity, and color grading. In fact, for me, one of the biggest reasons to upgrade to one of Sony's new 10-bit cameras or a 12-bit Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera is the much better color depth. And I know, those cameras have amazing features that are awesome, but if it wasn't for the increased color depth, I'd rather spend my money somewhere else, like in lighting or sound, or a Skillshare membership. Skillshare is an online learning community where you can explore thousands of classes in illustration, design, photography, and more. New members can get started with a free trial to get unlimited access to the entire catalog of classes. And for a limited time, you can use the affiliate link below plus this special code to get 30% off the 1-year premium membership. Skillshare is like Netflix for smart people. And speaking of smart, one of the most groundbreaking features of the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max is that in addition to having 10-bit color, it also has ProRes. Apple ProRes is an industry standard codec that has low compression and high bitrate. In simple terms, that means more information is captured and your computer doesn't have to do as much work to decode it. This translates into more detailed, rich, lifelike images at a cost of huge file sizes, but an overall better editing experience. The iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max can record in ProRes LT, ProRes 422, and ProRes HQ, where HQ has the bitrate of 92 megabytes per second or 736 bits per second, which work out to be 5.5 gigabytes per minute. That means while recording HQ a 256 gigabyte iPhone 13 Pro Max, assuming you have nothing else on it, and you do, because you at least have the phone's OS installed, would completely run out of space in about 46 minutes. By the way, 4K ProRes is only available in the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max with 256 gigabytes of storage or more. The 128 gigabyte version can only record ProRes in 1080p. So now that we know what ProRes is, how do we turn this beast into an angrier beast? First, you click the subscribe button, because you see, my self-worth is directly proportional to how many subscribers I have at any given time. And my therapist has decided not to return my calls, so that leaves me to try to resolve all my childhood issues by constantly seeking validation from strangers in the internet. Second, we're gonna need some stuff. And by stuff, I mean 2 pieces of software, a few Smallrig items, ways to control exposure outside, and a second iOS device. Now, before I go any further, I wanna show you something terrifying. My thought process. I wanted to use as many industry standard items as possible. Nothing, or almost nothing, that could only fit the iPhone 13 Pro Max. I mean, we all heard the saying, marry the lenses, date the body, but only go out for coffee with most iPhone accessories, because the iPhone's form factor changes on a yearly basis. Having said that, our main component is the iPhone 13 Pro Max with 256 gigabytes of storage, because again, the 128 gigabyte version will not support ProRes in 4K. Next, we'll need a cage. I have been using Smallrig products for years, and I highly recommend them. So when I saw that Smallrig made a cage for the iPhone 13 Pro Max, I pulled the trigger right away. The cage has a silicone interior lining that Smallrig claims can protect the iPhone from falls, but yeah, we're not gonna test this. The backplate on the cage accepts and mount accessories for Moment lenses, and if you prefer, you can purchase a 17mm filter thread backplate and use that instead. One of the things I love about this cage is how easy it is to remove the film from it, which needs to happen when it comes to flying my drone, otherwise the phone won't fit the Mavic Air 2's controller. Although the cage has many mounting options, I always like to have handles on all my cameras for handheld work. And since all I have is handles with NATO rail attachments, I also added 2 NATO rails on the side and on the top of the cage. I'd like to add an important note here. Neither one of the NATO rails I have were long enough to reach the bottom or the side of the phone. Alternatively, I could have gotten longer NATO rails, but that would overshoot the phone's width and likely block the lightning port. I was able to get one screw tight enough so the handle was temporarily secured, but it eventually got loose, so loose in fact that we had to stop filming. Smallrig makes specific top and side handles for this cage, so if the iPhone 13 Pro Max is going to be your main shooter and you don't already have other handles, then my recommendation would be to buy the handles that are specifically made for this setup. In order to maintain the 180-degree shutter angle and give our footage a more cinematic look, we're going to be using the Moment M2 37mm filter thread adapter, and then use step-up rings to get to the 82mm filter thread of the Tiffen 1/8 Black Pro Mist. And then finally, we'll add the Freewell 2:5 variable ND on top of it. Another important note here, the M-mount adapter is not going to work with the 13mm ultra-wide lens on the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. I guess 13 is unlucky. If you want to use the ultra-wide lens with filters, you may have to go with ProRes Live Chaser Pro for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Well, you know, that's a lot of pros. Anyway, the Filmmaker kit starts at $149 and the Director's kit starts at $249. Now I say start because several accessories will be available for the system, including anamorphic modifiers, FX filters, and a remote shutter release. Moment also makes lenses that modify the lenses on the iPhone. So if you want to make a wide lens, a super wide lens, or a telephoto, you can, but then you won't be able to use a ND on it. You see what I mean? It all gets overcomplicated really fast. So for the sake of whatever I have left that passes for sanity, let's just say that we're not going to be shooting it with the ultra-wide lens, and if we are, we're going to crank the shutter and not put any FX filters on it. But after everything is said and done, we get a very portable, convenient, and powerful filmmaking tool. As always, in the descriptions below, you'll find the affiliate links to all of the products I talk about in this video. If you use them to make a purchase, you'll be automatically helping the growth of this channel because I'll earn a small commission from the sale and no additional cost to you. Think of it as the most convenient way to vote with your wallet. On the software side of things, we're going to be downloading 2 apps from the App Store, Filmic Pro and Filmic Remote. If you can only afford one out of the 2, then get Filmic Pro first. Filmic Pro unlocks many features of the iPhone like constant frame rate, shutter speeds, different recording modes, and much, much more. Filmic Remote requires you to have Filmic Pro already installed on your iPhone 13 Pro Max and a separate iOS device where it can monitor what the camera of the iPhone 13 Pro Max sees. And although there is significant latency here, I found this app to be very useful since I'm often filming myself and the iPhone screen does not articulate. Just don't expect to do any run and gun focus pulling with the app because again, the latency on the feed will make this impossible. However, you can control almost every other feature on the phone without touching it. Now I say almost because as of the recording of this video, and Filmic Pro updates the software very often, but as of today, Filmic Remote does not, I repeat, does not support playback. That means you need to disconnect your iPhone 13 Pro Max from Filmic Remote in order to view the take you just shot. And let me tell you, that gets old really fast. The biggest problem I found is how the exposure settings reset every time we disconnect from Filmic Remote. For whatever reason, the shutter always goes back to 1/24th, so you have to lock your ISO settings, bring the shutter back to 1/48th, lock that, then bring the ISO to where it needs to be. And just like the constant criticism of a loved one that eats away at your dreams and ambitions, the repetitiveness of this action can ultimately cause you to make mistakes, or even worse, give up on your project. Another issue is that I always use false color to expose my shots, but I found it difficult to do that using Filmic Pro. That's because their values are different from my fieldwork monitor, and I wasn't sure how much I could expose to the right before clipping, or where skin tones should be. That's not the fault of the software. I'm sure the information's online somewhere, but you gotta run before you can walk, right? Transferring files out of the phone is a bit of an issue too. There are a few ways to get this done, but I found AirDrop to be the most straightforward. However, because the files are so large, you have to make sure there's enough free space on your computer's hard drive, otherwise the entire transfer could fail. I also found this to be much more time consuming than just taking the card out of the camera and putting it into my laptop. AirDrop can stop working for multiple reasons, and the longer it takes for the file to transfer, the more likely it is that it will fail and you have to start the whole thing over again. Other options include connecting your computer via wire or uploading directly to your photo library. But I found this option to take the longest, and the file management from that point on would be a nightmare. So with all that said, plus the limited lens choices, why would anybody bother filming with the iPhone anyways if they already have a camera? I don't know, but I do know that ProRes is awesome. I can see why this has been an industry standard for a while now. Playback in Premiere Pro is much smoother, and ProRes can withstand heavy color grading without falling apart. And although everything on YouTube is H.264, some clients do require delivery in ProRes. Blackmagic and Zcam both have entry-level cameras that have ProRes, and you can add ProRes to almost any mirrorless hybrid camera with the Atomos Ninja 5. So the only downside to ProRes is the large file sizes. Other than that, it's all good in the hood, the street, and in the park. And speaking of tourist attractions, here's a little clip that Eric and I put together using the iPhone 13 Pro Max.
Hi, I'm Andre.
And I'm Eric.
And we're here to tell you 5 reasons why
Your next vacation should be in
Providence, Rhode Island! Ever wonder what it would be like to be patronized by an elitist group of undergraduates who think they know everything, except how they're going to pay back their six-figure student loan debt on an entry-level salary? Well, if you come visit one of the many higher education institutions here in Providence, Rhode Island, you'll find out.
One of the many reasons why people go on vacation is to make new friends. Well, Providence has you covered with an array of the most welcoming and friendly people you can imagine. Hi.
We take public safety very seriously here in Providence, Rhode Island. That's why our court system is a syndicated reality TV show hosted by the world's most adorable judge who happens to look like your uncle, yet has no problem sending you to prison for unpaid parking tickets.
Want to see how the top 1% live, but don't want the hassle of flying to LA or New York? Fear not, because here in Providence, we have our own brand of snobs that were either priced out of the Manhattan real estate market or have an outstanding bench warrant in Fort Lauderdale.
If you're seeking adventure, Providence, Rhode Island is home to the most extreme sport in the nation, driving. Between the federally sponsored obstacle course that runs through our city, or as I like to call it, Route 95, and the legion of angry, overly distracted drivers who reside here, you'll literally be fighting for your life.
So come visit us in Providence, Rhode Island.
But don't look us up because we don't like strangers.
If your favorite YouTuber is laying on the horn at 85 miles an hour tailgating you, just remember,
our uncle's a judge.
That was shot in ProRes HQ. Our intro was shot in ProRes 422. Can you tell a difference in image quality? Listen, I consider you a friend, so we can be honest with each other. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Although we recorded audio directly into the iPhone 13 Pro Max using the fantastic Rode VideoMic NTG with a 3.5mm to lighting adapter cable from Apple, the audio you heard came from the Rode Wireless Go and the Rode Lavalier connected to my Tascam DR60. I would say that filming with the iPhone was a bit problematic. First, we had to be very careful about the vignetting we got while using the ND filter due to the lens stabilization on the iPhone. Although there is no vignetting when the phone is not moving, any amount of motion compensation on the sensor clearly showed the interior of the step-up rings. The other issue was again getting proper exposure. It almost seems like the phone is doing something else to compensate for low light situations. My hypothesis is that the iPhone has a variable rate protocol that overrides Filmic Pro's lock and how many frames it records per minute in those specific low light situations. If you rewatch the travel video Eric and I did, you'll notice that my voice is slightly out of sync during the night shot.
A sponsored obstacle course that runs through our city, or as I like to call it, Route 95.
I ventured that the phone was trying to compensate for the low light on the sky bridge, and this would have been okay if we used the sound recorded in the phone. But since we used the sound recorded in the DR60, the small variations in frame rate are enough to cause the audio drift in the video. This would have been catastrophic on a larger project because it is impossible to sync audio with footage filmed at, let's say, 21.976 FPS and then conformed into a 24 frames per second timeline. And if nothing else, that is enough reason for me to recommend that you never use a dual record system with an iPhone. The iPhone 13 Pro Max is a great phone, but it's not a very pleasant camera to use for any type of professional job. For those in need of short form, high quality vertical content in ProRes, this may be the answer to your prayers. I'm thinking of short videos that can be done in a day or less, or perhaps when you have to enter a video contest that requires ProRes and the deadline is the day after today. But that's it. I'm Andre Correa. This was Andre Correa Now. I'm off to Hawaii because of course we won, and I'll catch you when I catch you.
The make-believe contest, Eric? The make-believe contest. Are you kidding me?
Why would I find my phone and lie to me? If you can't trust the Prince of Nigeria, then who can you trust?
And this is a train station.
Trains, planes, and automobiles.